Thunder rolled across the ash-laden plains of the Emperor's world, shaking the spires of ancient cathedrals and the battlements of war fortresses. The young initiates of the Black Templars marched in solemn formation, cloaks billowing in the storm, their power armor reflecting the flashes of lightning like molten steel. This was no ordinary recruitment. This was a call to crusade, a journey of unwavering faith and relentless zeal. The aspirant gripped his chain's word, its edge glinting with sacred inscriptions. Around him, veterans chanted the litany of courage, voices rising and falling like the tide. Every word, every step, and every strike of the boot against stone reinforced one truth. The Emperor's will is absolute, and the Templars are its sword. Ahead, the grand banners of the chapter flapped violently in the storm, each symbol etched with centuries of battles, crusades, and victories. Thunder shook the ground as if the very heavens demanded devotion, testing courage, faith, and resolve. "Remember," a veteran intoned, cybernetic eyes gleaming, "doubt is a heresy. Fear is forbidden. Only action, only zeal, only the sword of the Emperor can purify the darkness." The first skirmish came suddenly. Chaos Raiders had slipped past the outer defenses, twisted figures shrouded in dark energy, eyes glowing with corruption. The initiates leaped into action, axes and bolters striking in perfect rhythm, augmented by faith and discipline. Sparks erupted as Chain's words met corrupted armor, and the storm above cast ghostly shadows across the battlefield. Every clash was a test, every maneuver a lesson in devotion. Pain flared with every blow absorbed, but the aspirant channeled it into focus. Fear whispered at the edge of thought, but faith silenced it. Every strike, every calculated parry, every precise shot carried the weight of centuries of Templar doctrine. Zeal, discipline, and unyielding loyalty. Hours passed in a whirlwind of combat, lightning, and the smell of ozone and scorched metal. The Chaos Raiders were relentless, but so was the faith of the Black Templars. The aspirant moved with precision, striking at weak points, protecting comrades, and advancing with the certainty of divine purpose. His chain axe roared, tearing through corrupted flesh and metal alike, sparks mingling with rain and lightning. The climactic encounter came when a massive Chaos Champion emerged, a hulking figure adorned with spiked armor and radiating malevolent energy. The aspirant met it head-on, Chain's words striking joint after joint while bolter fire ripped through armor gaps. Surrounding initiates coordinated flawlessly, Thunder Wolf companions lunging with synchronized ferocity. Sparks, lightning, and psychic energy painted a storm of chaos. Yet discipline, faith, and precision prevailed. Finally, the champion fell, collapsing in a shower of sparks, lightning striking the ruins like divine judgment. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling of smoldering debris and the distant rumble of the storm. Veterans approached, nodding in solemn approval. "You have fought with faith," with zeal, and with unyielding courage," one said. "The Emperor's light guides you, and your soul is sharpened for the Crusades to come." The aspirant, exhausted and bloodied, knelt in the rain, feeling the hum of armor, the bond with comrades, and the surge of faith in his veins. The storm raged, auroras flickering across the cathedrals, lightning illuminating the battlefield with brief, divine clarity. He had survived, adapted, and embraced the doctrine of the Black Templars. But as the clouds cleared for a moment, the aspirant glimpsed something unsettling. Shadows moving unnaturally in the distance, larger than any Chaos Raider encountered, eyes glowing with a cunning intelligence, watching, waiting. A chill ran through him, not of fear, but of anticipation. The next trial, the true test of faith and zeal, was already on the horizon. And the storm was far from over. The Black Templars' banners whipped violently in the storm as the crusading force approached the chaos-held city of Karat Prime. Smoke curled from shattered buildings, fires painting the skyline with red and orange hues. The aspirant tightened his grip on his chain's word. Nerves and steel fused with unshakable faith. Today, he would face the first true crucible of war. Not a test of strength, but of devotion, courage, and lethal precision. Veterans moved alongside him, cybernetic limbs humming, bolters primed, eyes scanning for danger. "This is no mere engagement," one whispered, voice metallic and calm. "Every step tests zeal. Every strike tests faith. Hesitation is forbidden. Only action guided by devotion will survive." The city was a labyrinth of twisted metal and shattered stone. Chaos defenders poured from shadowed alleys and crumbling spires. Mutated infantry, rogue servitors, and sorcerous acolytes. The aspirant advanced with purpose, chains word roaring, bolter fire tearing through corrupted armor. Sparks erupted with every strike, lightning from the storm above illuminating the battlefield like divine judgment. Every encounter was a lesson. Pain seared through muscles, yet the aspirant channeled it into focus. Every enemy felt reinforced discipline. Every dodge sharpened instinct. Red thirst and fervor merged with Black Templar doctrine, forging precision from chaos. Faith became a weapon, determination a shield. The first major clash erupted in the central plaza. Chaos champions, bristling with corrupted power armor, led waves of mutants and corrupted servitors. The aspirant moved as a pivot of battle, axes striking with lethal precision, Thunderwolf companions tearing through flanks, and squad mates coordinating flawlessly. Sparks, lightning, and psychic energy painted a violent tableau, yet control and strategy never faltered. A psychic explosion rocked the city, sending debris and molten fragments flying. The aspirant adjusted instantly, limbs and implants calculating trajectory, striking enemies mid-leap. Every movement was a blend of instinct, discipline, and augmentation. Fear was present but irrelevant. faith and zeal guided every action. Hours of relentless combat passed, the city itself groaning under the weight of the Crusade. Smoke and fire intertwined, molten metal streaking the battlefield. Chaos defenders faltered under the combined assault, but the aspirant pressed forward, leading his squad through alleys, across bridges, and into the heart of the city. Finally, the aspirant confronted a chaos sorcerer atop a crumbling spire, dark energies swirling. Bolter fire tore at corrupted armor. Chain's words struck with ritualistic precision, and Thunder Wolf leapt in synchronized attack. Sparks and psychic flares filled the air, the storm above casting divine illumination. The sorcerer fell, defeated but leaving a lingering, unnatural chill. A reminder that chaos was never truly gone. The city, now scarred and partially secured, fell silent but for the distant roar of storm and fires. Veterans approached, nodding with approval. "You have faced the crucible of battle," one said. "Faith guided you, steel protected you, and instinct led you. Today, you have proven devotion, courage, and lethal execution." The aspirant knelt amidst rubble and molten debris, Chain's word resting at his side, armor scorched and bloodied. Auroras flickered across the skyline, lightning reflecting in his visor. He had survived the crucible, adapted to chaos, and grown closer to the ideals of the Black Templars. Yet in the shadows of the ruined spires, movement stirred, eyes glinting in the darkness, watching. The storm raged, but whispers of greater trials loomed, and the aspirant knew that true crusade had only just begun. The next battle, the next test of faith, would demand even greater zeal and cunning. The Black Templars' crusade advanced through the ruined streets of Karat Prime, fire and smoke casting eerie shadows across shattered walls. The aspirant, now tested by the crucible of battle, approached the inner sanctum of the Chaos Stronghold, where the heart of corruption festered. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. Here, faith would guide him, zeal would sharpen him, and steel would protect him. Veterans flanked him, bolters primed, axes gleaming under the stormlit sky. This is where devotion is tested. One intoned, voice metallic and unwavering. The inner sanctum holds the corrupted heart of the enemy. Hesitation is death. Strike as one, move as one, endure as one. Let the Emperor's light guide your hand. The streets erupted as chaos defenders. Twisted mutants, rogue servitors, and sorcerous acolytes launched a coordinated counterattack. Sparks flew as Chain's words met corrupted armor. Bolters fired in deadly rhythm, and the aspirant moved like a single entity with his squad. Every strike was precise, every dodge measured, every advance calculated. Pain seared through his body, but discipline, instinct, and faith amplified every movement. The aspirant led the charge into the inner sanctum, stepping over debris and shattered stone. Twisted statues of fallen gods glared down, their eyes glowing with unnatural energy. Lava channels crisscrossed the floor, forcing precise leaps and calculated maneuvers. The squad moved as one, augmentations enhancing reflexes, thunder wolves lunging to flank, bolters ripping through enemy lines. At the Sanctum's heart, a towering Chaos champion awaited, bristling with spiked armor and crackling with warp energy. Psychic waves distorted the air, threatening to disorient and overwhelm. The aspirant adjusted instantly, neural implants synchronizing with limbs, instincts guiding strikes, and faith silencing fear. Chain's word met corrupted armor, bolter fire tore through weak points, and every maneuver was executed with lethal precision. The battle escalated as more chaos forces poured from hidden corridors, each wave more twisted and dangerous than the last. The aspirant's mind and body operated in perfect harmony with his augmentations and squad, calculating angles, anticipating strikes, and neutralizing threats with ruthless efficiency. Pain was constant, but mastery over it turned it into focus, each scar a lesson, each strike a testament to discipline. Amid the chaos, the aspirant glimpsed something far more sinister. A shadowy figure watching from the upper galleries, eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. It moved unnaturally, fading into the storm of battle, hinting at a greater threat that had been observing every step. The aspirant's pulse quickened, but faith and zeal steadied him. The trial demanded not just strength, but vigilance and foresight. Finally, the Chaos Champion collapsed, consumed by bolts and the relentless strike of Chain's word. The remaining defenders scattered, leaving the Sanctum in partial ruin. Smoke, sparks, and warp energy lingered in the air, a testament to the ferocity of the battle. Veterans approached, nodding in solemn approval. "You have breached the inner sanctum," one said. "Faith, steel, and instinct guided you. The Emperor's light shines through your actions." The aspirant knelt amidst the ruins, armor scorched, cloak tattered, and Chain's word humming softly. Flames reflected in his visor, the storm above echoing the chaos below. He had survived, adapted, and grown stronger, but the shadowed figure remained in his mind, a reminder that true corruption never rests, and the trials of the Crusade were far from over. Auroras flickered across the ruined skyline, lightning illuminating the scene with divine clarity. The aspirant's thoughts raced with anticipation and resolve. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, greater threats, and the opportunity to prove zeal and faith even further. The storm of the Crusade had only just begun, and the Black Templar's path of unyielding devotion continued, relentless, eternal, and deadly. The inner sanctum of Karat Prime lay in ruins, smoke curling from shattered columns, molten metal streaking the floors, and the storm above casting jagged shadows through broken skylights. The aspirant advanced, Chain's word at the ready, senses sharpened, every nerve attuned to danger. Somewhere in the shadows, a Chaos lieutenant waited, a cunning and lethal adversary who had observed every movement, every strike. Veterans moved alongside him, augmented limbs humming with readiness, bolters primed, axes gleaming. "The duel tests more than strength," a veteran warned. "It tests faith, discipline, and the purity of your zeal. Hesitate and death will claim you. Strike decisively, move as one with your instincts, and let the Emperor guide your hand." The lieutenant revealed himself, towering, his corrupted armor pulsing with dark energy. Eyes burned with hatred, claws crackling with warp lightning. The air shimmered with psychic tension as both combatants sized each other up. The ground between them littered with molten debris and the remnants of defeated forces. The aspirant lunged first, chains word roaring, bolter firing with surgical precision. The Chaos Lieutenant countered, striking with unnatural speed, armor deflecting blows and claws tearing the air with deadly intent. Sparks flew, metal clanged, and the battlefield became a dance of death. Every strike calculated, every dodge measured, every breath a tool of precision. Hours of relentless duel passed. The aspirant adapted instantly to each attack, his body and mind operating in perfect harmony with his augmentations. Faith and zeal heightened reflexes, instinct guided strategy, discipline controlled aggression. The Chaos Lieutenant struck again and again, testing the aspirant's endurance, but every move was met with controlled response. Every assault countered with lethal efficiency. Lightning from the storm illuminated the duel in flashes, casting both figures as living statues of war, faith, and corruption. The aspirant's chains word met armor joints, bolter fire struck weak points, and every attack and parry became a lesson in the doctrine of the Black Templars. Zeal, discipline, and unyielding devotion to the Emperor. The duel reached its climax as the Chaos Lieutenant unleashed a devastating psychic attack, hurling molten debris and warp energy across the chamber. The aspirant's neural implants synchronized with augmented limbs, deflecting debris, countering psychic pressure, and closing the gap with lethal precision. Chain's word met corrupted chest plate, bolter fire struck in perfect timing, and with a final, coordinated strike, the lieutenant fell, collapsing in sparks and dark energy. Silence returned, broken only by the distant rumble of the storm and the hum of armor. Veterans approached, nodding with solemn approval. "You have faced the duel," one said, voice resonant, "and emerged unbroken. Faith guided you, zeal sharpened your strikes, and discipline ensured victory. You have proven that your devotion is unwavering and your purpose true." The aspirant knelt amidst molten debris, chest heaving, armor scorched and dented, chains word humming softly. The shadow of the fallen lieutenant lingered in the air like a whisper, a reminder that even in victory, vigilance must never waver. As the storm subsided, a flicker in the shadows caught the aspirant's eye, a glint of something far more sinister, larger and more intelligent than any foe yet faced, observing from a distance, waiting for the moment to strike. The thrill of the duel lingered, but a new awareness dawned. The crusade would only grow more perilous, and the path of the Black Templars was far from over. Lightning flashed across ruined spires, auroras shimmering in the distance. The aspirant rose, chains whirred at the ready, and with renewed resolve he stepped forward. The Emperor's light burned in his soul, zeal sharpened to a blade, and the trials ahead promised greater battles, darker enemies, and unyielding challenges. The crusade continued, relentless, eternal, and unstoppable. The ruined skyline of Karat Prime stretched before the Black Templars like a battlefield frozen in time, fires burning across shattered spires, molten rivers flowing through broken streets. The aspirant, now tested by Duel and Crucible alike, marched at the forefront of a full-scale siege against the Chaos War host, leading his squad with unwavering zeal. Veterans flanked him, cybernetic limbs synchronized, bolters humming, chains words gleaming. This is the true test of command, one intoned, voice metallic and firm. Every action, every maneuver, every strike must be coordinated. Chaos is relentless. Hesitation is death. Faith, steel, and devotion are your weapons. Lead, strike, and endure. The battlefield erupted in a storm of fire and molten debris as chaos forces surged from fortified towers and crumbling gates. Mutants, rogue servitors, and psychic cultists advanced in coordinated waves. The aspirant squad moved as one, axes striking with lethal precision, bolters tearing through armor, and thunder wolves lunging to flank. Sparks and lightning from the storm above illuminated the chaos, casting the warriors as avatars of the Emperor's wrath. The aspirant advanced through narrow streets and shattered alleys, calculating every step, predicting enemy movements, and coordinating attacks. Every strike of chains whirred, every pull of the trigger, every leap across molten debris was synchronized with veterans' augmented movements. Pain, exhaustion, and fear were present, but devotion transformed them into sharpened focus. At the city's central bastion, a massive Chaos War engine loomed, bristling with spiked armor and war weapons. The aspirant assessed instantly, directing squad maneuvers and bolter fire with precision. Thunder wolves struck from the flanks, axes tearing through weak points, and the war engine staggered under coordinated assault. Sparks flew, molten metal hissed, and the battlefield became a whirlwind of calculated violence. Mutated chaos champions emerged from the shadows, psychic flares rippling through the air. The aspirant met them head-on, striking with lethal timing, while the squad moved in unison, surrounding enemies and neutralizing threats with precision. Every clash of metal, every eruption of sparks, and every psychic flare was countered by instinct, discipline, and faith-driven execution. Hours of relentless combat tested every skill, every augmentation, and every ounce of endurance. The aspirant led the final charge into the Bastion, surging through corridors of molten metal and shattered stone. Bolter fire and chains word strikes carved a path toward the command center, where the Chaos Overlord awaited, a towering figure pulsing with warp energy and malice. The final confrontation was brutal. The aspirant lunged with precision, axes striking joints, bolters tearing at weak points, and thunder wolves coordinated lethal flanks. The Chaos Overlord unleashed psychic storms, debris, and flames, yet every move was countered by instinct, augmentation, and disciplined strategy. Sparks and lightning merged into a storm of divine judgment, illuminating the battlefield in fleeting, sacred clarity. Finally, the Chaos Overlord fell in a shower of sparks and molten energy, collapsing into ruin. The remaining forces scattered into the shadows and molten fissures, leaving the city in partial control of the Black Templars. Veterans approached, nodding in solemn approval. You have led with zeal, struck with precision, and endured the crucible of command. Faith and steel have prevailed. The Emperor's light shines in your actions. The aspirant knelt amidst molten debris and shattered stone, armor scorched, cloak tattered, chains word humming softly. Lightning flashed across ruined towers, auroras shimmering in the distance. The battlefield was silent, yet the shadow of a greater, unseen threat lingered, eyes watching from the darkness. The trial had been won, but the crusade was far from over, and the path of the Black Templars demanded even greater vigilance, courage, and unyielding devotion. The storm raged outside, wind and rain mingling with the smoke and sparks of battle. The aspirant rose, chains word ready, faith burning like a beacon in his chest. The crusade continued, relentless, eternal, and unforgiving. And somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes waited, promising challenges yet more perilous, trials yet more lethal, and battles yet more glorious. The ruined streets of Karat Prime led the Black Templars to the looming silhouette of a Chaos War mage's fortress, perched atop jagged cliffs and bathed in a sickly, green aurora. Smoke and fire twisted around the spires, casting shadows that seemed alive. The aspirant led the vanguard, chains word in hand, bolts primed, eyes blazing with faith and zeal. This was a test unlike any before. War against sorcery, traps, and cunning enemies. Veterans flanked him, their augmented limbs synchronized, every movement precise, every strike ready. The fortress is alive with corruption, one intoned. Every step is a trial, every shadow a threat. Trust your instincts, trust your faith, and let the Emperor's will guide your hand. Hesitate, and chaos devours the unwary. The approach was treacherous. Lava fissures split the cliffside, jagged spires twisted unnaturally, and psychic wards shimmered along walls and floors. The aspirant led his squad across collapsing bridges, dodging molten eruptions, and navigating corridors lined with warp traps designed to disorient and kill. Every step demanded calculation, every breath precision, and every movement instinctive. The first assault came in the form of corrupted sentinels, hulking constructs pulsating with dark energy. Chain's word met reinforced armor, bolter fire tore through joints, and thunder wolves lunged with lethal synchronization. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and the air shimmered with psychic backlash. Pain and fear were present, yet focus and devotion amplified every action. Deeper inside, warp traps tested perception and faith. Corridors shifted unnaturally, floors erupted in fire, and psychic illusions twisted the mind. The aspirant advanced, neural implants filtering sensory overload, instincts guiding every movement. Shadows became data, threats became calculations, and every step forward was an act of divine precision. At the fortress's core, the Chaos War Mage awaited, floating above an altar of molten corruption. Energy crackled around him, distortions rippling through reality. Bolter fire struck first, axes followed, but the mage countered with psychic blasts that hurled molten debris and twisted steel toward the aspirant. Every strike, every dodge, every breath was a balance of faith, instinct, and lethal precision. The battle raged, sparks mingling with psychic flares and molten fire. Veterans struck in unison, augmented limbs synchronized with neural implants, thunder wolves attacking with predatory coordination. The aspirant moved seamlessly between offense and defense, calculating timing, angles, and force, embodying the Black Templar doctrine. Zeal, discipline, and unyielding devotion. Hours of relentless combat tested endurance, willpower, and devotion. The fortress seemed alive, responding to every action, amplifying threats, and testing the aspirant's mastery over both steel and faith. Finally, Chain's word and bolter fire struck true, shattering the mage's protective wards, and with a final coordinated strike, the war mage collapsed into a storm of sparks and warp energy. The fortress fell silent, save for the distant rumble of the storm and the hum of the Black Templar's armor. Veterans approached, nodding solemnly. "You have faced the fortress and its trials," one said. "Faith guided your hand, zeal sharpened your strikes, and discipline ensured survival. The Emperor's light shines in your actions." But as silence settled, the aspirant glimpsed movement in the shadows. A massive, twisted figure, unlike any foe faced, watching and waiting, eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. The fortress, though conquered, still held mysteries, and the trials of the Crusade were far from over. Lightning split the sky, auroras flickering across ruined spires, casting long, eerie shadows. The aspirant rose, Chain's word humming, faith burning in his chest. The crusade continued, relentless, eternal, and deadly. And in the shadows of the fortress, the next test awaited, promising challenges yet more perilous, traps yet more cunning, and enemies yet more formidable. The fortress of the Chaos War Mage lay in partial ruin, yet its inner sanctum remained a labyrinth of shadow, flame and warp corruption. The aspirant, chain's word humming with lethal purpose, led a vanguard of Black Templars into the heart of darkness. Every step forward tested faith, courage, and precision. The air crackled with psychic energy, walls pulsed unnaturally, and shadows shifted with intent. Veterans flanked him, bolters primed, axes gleaming under the dim glow of corrupted runes. The inner sanctum houses the cursed guardians, one warned. Constructs, warriors, and spirits bound to chaos itself. They are swift, intelligent, and relentless. Faith, instinct, and precision are your only allies. As the aspirant stepped into the first hall, twisted armor-clad figures emerged, eyes glowing with malice, weapons etched with warp sigils. These were the elite cursed guardians, each a lethal fusion of flesh, machine, and sorcery. Chain's word and bolter met first wave of attacks, sparks flying as metal clashed with corrupted steel. The veterans moved like extensions of the aspirant's will, striking in lethal harmony, augmented limbs amplifying instinct, and thunder wolves lunging for flank attacks. The hall erupted into chaos. Psychic flares twisted reality, warp energy tore at the mind, and every step required perfect calculation. The aspirant adjusted, neural implants processing sensory overload, instincts guiding every strike, and faith silencing fear. Every clash of weapon and shield became a lesson in discipline, every dodge a demonstration of lethal precision. The Guardians were relentless. They anticipated moves, countered strikes, and coordinated attacks. Yet the aspirant, melding instinct with augmentation and zeal, matched them blow for blow. Sparks, psychic flares, and molten fragments filled the hall, yet control never faltered. Faith was a weapon, devotion a shield, and steel an extension of purpose. Hours of relentless combat tested every muscle, every reflex, and every ounce of devotion. The aspirant adapted instantly, his mind a perfect fusion of strategy and instinct, his body a weapon honed by trials and zeal. The Guardians fell one by one, their bodies shattering in sparks and warp energy, yet the last lingered, larger and more cunning, eyes burning with intelligence. The final Guardian lunged, weapon crackling with warp energy, aiming to crush the aspirant's defenses. Chain's word met armor in a shower of sparks, bolter fire tore at joints, and augmented limbs synchronized for a lethal strike. With precise timing and flawless coordination, the aspirant struck true, severing the Guardian's core, sending it collapsing into a storm of flame and corruption. The hall fell silent, echoes of combat lingering in warped shadows. Veterans approached, nodding solemnly. "You have faced the cursed Guardians," one intoned. "Faith guided your hand, zeal sharpened your strikes, and discipline ensured victory. The Emperor's light shines through you. The inner sanctum is almost within your grasp." But as silence settled, a deeper chill crept through the hall, a shadow moving unnaturally, larger than any guardian yet faced, observing, calculating. The aspirant's pulse quickened, yet faith and zeal steeled him. The final confrontation, the true heart of corruption, awaited beyond the next gate. Lightning flickered across warped architecture, auroras shimmering through shattered ceilings. The aspirant rose, chain's word humming with anticipation, armor scorched and cloak tattered, eyes blazing with devotion. The crusade continued, relentless, eternal, and lethal. And in the shadows of the Sanctum, the ultimate trial whispered, promising battles yet more perilous, enemies yet more cunning, and a test of zeal and faith beyond measure. The inner sanctum of the Chaos Fortress pulsed with warp energy, the very walls alive with corruption, casting eerie green and violet light across shattered stone and molten channels. The aspirant, chain's word humming, advanced with unwavering faith, his squad flanking, bolters primed, eyes sharp. Ahead, the Chaos War Mage's core chamber awaited, a swirling vortex of psychic power, molten energy, and forbidden sorcery. Veterans whispered, cybernetic eyes scanning the war-twisted corridors. The core is a nexus, one warned. Every strike, every step, every thought will be challenged. Hesitate, and the warp devours you. Trust faith, trust steel, trust your instinct. As they entered, the chamber's center erupted, a towering warp conduit pulsing with raw energy. The Chaos War Mage hovered above it, robes whipping, eyes blazing with malevolent intelligence. Dark energy surged, tearing reality in jagged flashes. Fools, the mage hissed, voice twisting. You step into the Emperor's fury, yet you know not the cost of zeal. The aspirant lunged first, chain's word roaring, bolter firing with deadly precision. The mage unleashed psychic torrents, sending molten fragments and warped constructs toward the Templars. The squad moved in perfect harmony, augmented limbs amplifying speed and reflexes, thunder wolves striking with lethal synchronization. Sparks, energy, and molten debris filled the chamber. Every attack tested instinct, every defense challenged faith. Warp energy clawed at mind and body, threatening to overwhelm, yet discipline and devotion turned it into weaponized precision. The aspirant's chain's word carved through summoned horrors, bolter rounds pierced corrupted armor, and every move resonated with Black Templar doctrine. Zeal, discipline, and unyielding devotion. Hours of relentless assault pushed the aspirant to his limits. The mage summoned phantasms, twisted the chamber, and wielded molten warp energy like a tidal wave. Yet every strike, every maneuver, every breath was countered with lethal coordination and divine resolve. Faith became armor, zeal became weapon, and instinct became perfect strategy. Finally, the aspirant closed the distance. Chain's word clashed with Mage's staff in a shower of sparks, energy arcs tearing through the chamber. Bolter fire shattered corrupted wards. The mage screamed, unleashing a psychic wave of immense force. Yet the aspirant, guided by faith, struck the decisive blow, Chain's word cleaving through the mage's armor, severing the conduit of warp energy. The chamber convulsed violently, molten energy erupting and warp distortions rippling across the sanctum. The mage collapsed, screams echoing through shattered corridors, leaving only silence, scorched stone, and faint smoke. Veterans approached, nodding solemnly. "The core is neutralized," one said. "Faith, steel, and instinct have triumphed. You have faced the ultimate trial of the Sanctum." But as the chamber settled, a faint shadow stirred in the periphery. A greater, unseen intelligence watching, far beyond the fallen mage, eyes glinting with cunning and anticipation. The aspirant felt a chill, not of fear, but of acknowledgement. The Crusade's true enemy, ancient and patient, remained. Lightning and auroras reflected in the shattered chamber, molten channels hissing, casting the scene in spectral light. The aspirant, Chain's word humming, armor scorched, cloak tattered, rose with renewed resolve. The crusade would continue, relentless, eternal, and merciless. And somewhere in the shadows beyond the warp, the next trial of faith, zeal, and steel waited. The fortress lay in ruin, molten channels cooling, smoke curling from shattered battlements. Yet the Black Templars knew the war was far from over. The aspirant, Chain's word humming and armor scorched, led the pursuit through the ruined cityscape of Karat Prime, tracking the fleeing remnants of chaos forces and the shadow intelligence that had lingered throughout the battles. Veterans flanked him, bolters primed, axes gleaming, augmented limbs synchronizing movements. Chaos never rests. One warned, voice metallic and unwavering. Their remnants scatter, but their corruption endures. Every step, every strike, every breath must be calculated. Hesitate, and the shadows consume. The city was a labyrinth of ruined towers, collapsed streets, and molten fissures. Corrupted sentinels lurked in alleys, mutants and rogue servitors ambushed from shadows. The aspirant advanced with lethal precision, Chain's word cutting through twisted foes, bolter rounds tearing gaps in corrupted armor. Sparks and molten debris erupted with every strike, lightning from the storm above illuminating the battle with divine clarity. As they pursued deeper, psychic traces of the Chaos War mage lingered in the air, shimmering distortions guiding the aspirant toward the shadow intelligence. The remnants of the mage's forces attempted desperate ambushes, yet the aspirant anticipated, adapted, and neutralized each threat with disciplined precision. Faith and zeal guided every movement, instinct sharpening every attack, and steel protecting every advance. The pursuit led through a collapsed bridge over molten channels, jagged spires creating treacherous pathways. The aspirant calculated each step, bolts and Chain's word ready, thunder wolves scouting flanks. Sparks flew as corrupted constructs lunged, Yet every strike, every dodge, every leap was executed with flawless timing. The remnants fell one by one, yet the true adversary remained unseen, a presence in every shadow, watching, calculating, and testing resolve. Hours of relentless pursuit pushed body and mind to the limits. The aspirant's neural implants synchronized with augmented limbs, instinct guiding strategy, zeal amplifying strength, and faith silencing fear. The shadows themselves seemed alive, responding to every move, shaping traps, and testing patience and precision. Finally, atop a crumbling spire overlooking the ruins, the aspirant glimpsed the shadow intelligence. A figure cloaked in warp energy, eyes glowing with cunning, observing every move. It vanished into the ruins with unnatural speed, leaving a trail of psychic echoes and whispers. The aspirant's pulse quickened, chain's word humming, every nerve alert. The enemy was cunning, patient, and far more dangerous than any foe yet faced. Veterans gathered, nodding solemnly. "You have pursued the remnants and faced the shadows," one said. "Faith guided you, zeal sharpened your strikes, and discipline ensured survival. The Emperor's light burns bright in your actions. Yet the true adversary remains. The hunt is far from over." Lightning streaked across ruined towers, auroras shimmering across the scarred skyline. The aspirant rose, chain's word at the ready, eyes blazing with resolve. The pursuit would continue, relentless and unforgiving. Shadows hid cunning, yet the path of the Black Templars remained, unyielding, eternal, and lethal. In the distance, warped light flickered, hinting at the next confrontation. The aspirant knew that the Crusade was entering its deadliest phase, and that the shadow intelligence, patient and calculating, would not rest until the final battle was forced. The ruined skyline of Karat Prime stretched endlessly, jagged spires silhouetted against the storm-lit sky. Smoke and molten rivers ran through shattered streets, remnants of the Chaos War Mage's fortress scattered across the city. The aspirant led the Black Templars into the heart of the ruins, chain's word humming, bolter primed, eyes blazing with unyielding zeal. Ahead awaited the shadow intelligence, lurking amidst the scattered remnants, and the final elite defenders of the fallen mage. Veterans flanked him, augmented limbs synchronized, axes gleaming, bolters firing with precision. "This is the culmination," one said, voice metallic and calm. "Every strike, every dodge, every thought counts. The enemy is cunning, relentless, and patient. Faith guides you, steel protects you, zeal drives you." The shadows moved unnaturally, elite chaos defenders emerging from every ruined alley and scorched building. Mutated champions, rogue servitors, and warp-touched constructs advanced, attacking in coordinated, unpredictable waves. Chain's words clashed, bolters tore through corrupted armor, and sparks and molten debris filled the air. Lightning streaked the stormy sky, illuminating the battlefield in divine flashes of chaos and war. The aspirant anticipated, adapted, and struck with lethal precision. Each move was calculated, every maneuver amplified by neural implants and training. Thunder wolves lunged from flanks, axes tore through enemy lines, and bolter fire neutralized threats before they could strike. The shadow intelligence moved like a phantom, eyes glowing, observing every strike, predicting every advance. Hours of relentless engagement tested endurance, faith, and instinct. The aspirant faced the shadow intelligence directly, engaging in a deadly dance of chain's word against warp energy, bolter fire against summoned phantasms. Every attack was countered, every move anticipated. Yet the aspirant's discipline and devotion allowed him to hold, adapt, and respond with lethal efficiency. The elite defenders of the fallen mage pressed forward, using the ruins to their advantage, creating ambushes and traps. Lava fissures, crumbling buildings, and warp distortions threatened to overwhelm the Black Templars. Yet every assault was met with precision, every gap filled, every flank covered. Faith, zeal, and steel became inseparable, a perfect synthesis of Black Templar doctrine in action. Finally, the aspirant closed the distance to the shadow intelligence. Chain's word met warped armor in a shower of sparks. Bolts tore through protective wards, and the battlefield convulsed with the force of psychic backlash and molten explosions. The shadow intelligence unleashed its full power, attempting to overwhelm with psychic onslaught and summoned horrors. Yet the aspirant's faith burned brighter than ever. He struck with calculated precision, axes and chains word tearing through armor and wards, bolter fire ripping apart constructs and phantoms. The shadow intelligence faltered, its form flickering, destabilized by the relentless assault and unwavering devotion of the Black Templars. With a final, decisive strike, the aspirant severed the core of the shadow intelligence, shattering its form into shards of warp energy that dissipated into the ruins. The remaining elite defenders scattered, leaving the battlefield silent save for the distant rumble of the storm and molten fissures. Veterans approached, nodding solemnly. "You have faced the shadow intelligence and its elite forces," one intoned. "Faith guided your strikes, zeal sharpened your actions, and steel protected your soul. The Emperor's light shines in your triumph." The aspirant stood amidst the ruins, chains word humming, armor scorched, and cloak tattered, eyes blazing with devotion. The battle had been won, yet the ruins whispered of even greater threats beyond Karat Prime. The crusade continued, relentless, eternal, and merciless. And in the stormlit horizon, new challenges awaited, promising trials yet more lethal, foes yet more cunning, and battles yet more glorious. The ruins of Karat Prime lay quiet, the storm subsiding, molten channels cooling, and the shattered cityscape illuminated by the first light of dawn. The aspirant stood atop a crumbling spire, chains word humming softly, eyes scanning the horizon. The Black Templars had triumphed over the fortress. The Chaos War Mage, its shadow intelligence, and elite defenders. But the cost had been immense, the trials merciless, and the lessons unforgettable. Veterans gathered around him, battle-scarred but resolute, bolters smoking, axes scarred with combat, armor dented but shining with devotion. "You have faced the Crucible," one said, voice metallic but filled with reverence. "Faith guided your strikes, zeal sharpened your actions, and steel protected your soul. Today, the Emperor's light burns brighter through your deeds." The aspirant lowered his gaze, Chain's word resting against his shoulder. Memories of the battles flashed in his mind. The crucible in the city streets, the duel with the Chaos Lieutenant, the Fortress of Shadows, the Cursed Guardians, and the climactic confrontation with the Shadow Intelligence. Every strike, every step, every breath had been a testament to devotion, discipline, and unyielding faith. Yet the victories were not without shadow. The ruins whispered of greater enemies beyond Karat Prime, ancient and patient foes whose eyes had watched the crusade unfold. The aspirant knew that the trials were far from over, that every victory was but a prelude to the next challenge, every battle a step along an endless path of devotion and war. Thunder rolled in the distance, lightning streaking across jagged spires, reflecting in molten rivers. The aspirant turned, seeing his squad ready, unyielding, unwavering. Their eyes met his, shared resolve burning brighter than any storm. The Black Templar's path was eternal, to march forward, to strike without hesitation, and to uphold the Emperor's will against all who would defile the Imperium. In the distance, the remnants of Chaos forces retreated, twisted shadows of what had once threatened Karat Prime. The aspirant's mind cataloged lessons learned, strategies refined, instincts honed. Each trial had strengthened him. Each confrontation sharpened his resolve. Each scar a testament to the crucible of devotion. Lightning illuminated the horizon once more, auroras shimmering across the scarred landscape, painting it with spectral beauty. The aspirant raised his chain's word high, a symbol of unyielding faith and eternal zeal. The crusade continues, he thought, eyes blazing, soul burning with devotion. Relentless, eternal, unforgiving. For the Emperor, for the Imperium, for the Black Templars. The squad moved forward, leaving the ruins of Karat Prime behind, yet carrying the lessons, the scars, and the zeal earned in battle. The horizon stretched endlessly, a canvas for war, faith, and devotion. Every step was a challenge, every strike a testament, every breath a promise. The crusade had only begun, and the Black Templar's march was eternal. From the shadows of the distant mountains, a faint shimmer of movement hinted at the enemies yet unseen, the threats yet to rise. The aspirant did not flinch. Chain's word humming, bolter primed, and faith burning bright, he stepped forward into the unknown, ready for the next crusade, the next battle, the next trial. The dawn broke fully, illuminating Karat Prime in a glow of fire, smoke, and molten rivers, but also in the light of victory, devotion, and eternal zeal. The aspirant knew that while battles would come and go, the spirit of the Black Templars was eternal, unyielding, and ever ready to strike in the name of the Emperor.